I'm Carl, and welcome back to another episode of Old Oscar Countdown. In this episode, we're going to be looking at the supporting actress category in my predictions for the nominations of the 2021 Oscars. Now, these are not my final predictions, but these are the predictions as of right now to give you a little bit of a landscape as where we are in the Oscar race. You guys have been showing a lot of support for these videos, and I really appreciate that, so keep that up. Like these videos, comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let's have a discussion in the comments down below. Why'd you leave out this person? Why not this person? Do you think this person has a chance? All these sorts of things is the reason why this channel exists, and I encourage you to keep on showing the support, which we've had a great success with. But continuing on now with our acting categories, next week is going to be the best supporting actor predictions, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the channel. But particularly with the best supporting actress category, it's a very interesting year because right now it's a pretty wide open race. I think there's a clear front runner in terms of winning, but in terms of the nominations, I think you can have a bunch of different options, and there's no real clear 3 or even clear 4. I think there's probably a clear 2, and then from there on it's kind of hard to decipher. And I'm going to break down my analysis and why I have certain people in these categories and in these slots as of right now. So my first pick, I'm going to go with Amanda Seyfried for Mank. Right now, I think she's the sort of clear frontrunner in a way to win the movie, despite sort of the recent blowback and lukewarm reception to Mank. Mank was a movie that we thought would be a big Oscar contender, maybe even the frontrunner, and maybe even a movie to win. But with the lack of support from some of the critics groups, New York Films Critics Circle, Los Angeles Film Critics, etc., we're not exactly sure. It doesn't have sort of critical support that maybe we thought it would, that some of its sort of contemporaries are a relation, and I've likened the movie to something like Aroma or An Irishman because of its sort of personal element to the director and auteur driven and big budget and a little bit more on the critical kind of side. But those movies were both well received by the Academy, at least in terms of nominations, and I think that's how Mank is looking at right now, that it's a movie maybe not like Irishman or Roma, but maybe more like Marriage Story, a movie that should get a lot of nominations. I'm predicting about 10 for Mank as of right now, but it's also a movie that I think will do well and still get a win, sort of the one win, that they still like Mank, they will nominate it a bunch of times, but they want to give only one win. We've seen this happen with movies like Marriage Story or The Favorite, movies that were well liked, that were sort of in the top 3 or 5, which I think Mank still is, and then they just gave it sort of a supporting actress in the case of Marriage Story and the lead actress in the case of Olivia Coleman for The Favorite. Movies that they like, but they're not going to really win in maybe some of these other categories. Okay, so you know what? Let's just give it to Best Supporting Actress. Now, you could argue that it could go to cinematography or production design or some of these more technical categories, but usually, well, like movies like this, usually like to add in sort of an actress or an actor win, and I think this is going to be the case this year with Amanda Seyfried, and she's got a lot going for her. She's an actress that we see, the audience and the Academy has seen before, but more in lighter roles, things like Dear John or Mamma Mia, or even something all the way back in Mean Girls. But she's sort of surprised recently. I think that has an element to it that many of the Academy members, I believe, have seen first Reformed, which she was very good in, and now sort of coming out here, playing an actress, being very surprised, and being like, oh yeah, I've seen Amanda Seyfried before, but I thought she also only did the sort of light movies. To see her really have this great standout performance, and really the sort of standout performance of the movie, that most people who watch the movie come out with Amanda Seyfried in mind, it shows a sort of direct correlation, I think, to its success. That if the movie does so well in terms of its nominations, if it gets 10 plus nominations, well, the standout person from Mank is Amanda Seyfried for a lot of people. Therefore, I think it has a strong chance for Amanda to win. She has that factor of being an actress that they know, but this is sort of her wowing herself and showing her dramatic chops that maybe the members of the Academy and audience members didn't think she had. She's also playing a real life person and also an actress, and the Academy loves biopic and actors playing real life people performances, with the wins of someone like Freddie Mercury, Rami Malek, or the Winston Churchill performance by Gary Oldman, both wins. So it's not uncommon for them to win, particularly for playing a real life person, but also, more importantly, of playing an actress. We have people like Cate Blanchett winning for playing Katharine Hepburn. We have guys like Martin Landau winning for Ed Wood. So not only are they likely to give it to someone playing a famous person, they're also super likely to give it to somebody who's playing an actor, an actress. So there's a lot of things going for Amanda Seyfried, not only to get nominated, because I still believe in the strength of Mank as a multiple nomination movie, but also in terms of her chances of winning. And I think it's sort of a desperate, desolate kind of a year. I think she has a strong chance right now to be that front runner and to ultimately win. Then my next pick, I went with Olivia Coleman from The Father. This is a role that is the classic supporting role, and it fits a lot of these categories and all these sort of conditions that we like to see and often see in these supporting categories like a glove. So while I don't think she's going to win for this performance, I do think this is almost a guarantee for a nomination. The movie, I think, will be very well liked in terms of both Anthony Hopkins getting in and here Olivia Coleman, as well as other categories, potentially editing, writing, things like that. But I also think that there's just a lot of things working for her. First, they like Olivia Coleman. Olivia Coleman won just 3 years ago. They like her. They want to nominate her again and so show their support, because they show their support with giving her the Best Lead Actress. They want to continue saying, we really like this actor. We really want to give it to her. Another point is that she's in The Crown season 4 and in this movie, so she has that sort of top of the mind awareness. She's great in The Crown and is really sort of being seen by a lot of people, which oftentimes with actors with sort of multiple movies in the awards conversation, they do well. So this is not in the Oscar awards conversation, but it is in terms of the sort of pop culture conversation. I still think people are going to be talking about Olivia Coleman. And also, she has a large role in the movie that she's still a supporting actor that is still Anthony Hopkins' movie, but she is in a lot of the movie. And oftentimes we see a direct correlation where the more you're in it, even though you're in supporting, the more you're in it, the more people remember you when they think of the movie. And if they like the movie, they're more likely to nominate you for best, in this case, supporting actress. That's how someone like Viola Davis won for Fences, or someone like Mahershala Ali won for Green Book for best supporting actor. Even though they're really co-leads, they campaign and supporting, and they often have great success. So while Olivia Coleman doesn't have the showy performance the same way Anthony Hopkins does, I still think she'll get nominated. Then with my third pick, I'm going to go with Ellen Burstyn from Pieces of a Woman. And I think these last 3 slots, 3, 4, and 5, really are up for grabs. That usually in most categories we have a top 3 or even a top 4, and that 5th slot is kind of interchangeable. But in this category, it's really interesting because we don't know how it's going to go, and you can have a bunch of different combinations, which I'd love to hear in the comments down below. But ultimately, I chose these 3 and not the other 3 for the following reasons. But sticking here with Ellen Burstyn from Pieces of a Woman, this is a movie that's going to be coming out this Friday, I believe. And I mentioned a couple weeks ago how Vanessa Kirby, I think, could win for Best Actress. I think this is a movie that's sort of capital D dramatic and intense, and maybe European and in a bad way for some of the American audiences. But I still think it's an emotionally rich and interesting film with heavy performances, and a type of movie that actually does well, at least in terms of the performance side, at the Oscars. Now, we just don't know exactly how Pieces of a Woman, though, will be treated. This is a movie that could only get 2 nominations for both actress and supporting actress. It's a movie that has some recent controversy because the singer FKA Twigs has come out and claimed that Shia LaBeouf, a co-lead, really actor in the movie, has been sort of abusive in their relationship, and has come out with all those comments. And precedingly, Netflix has removed Shia LaBeouf from the For Your Consideration page. So that's controversy that I think maybe it's hard to say if it's going to be relevant in 4 months from now, but it is something that's affecting the film right now, so that's something to note. And we have here Ellen Burstyn, who is a 6-time nominee, previous Oscar winner, who's been nominated in 3 different decades, and I think if she gets nominated here, that will be the 4th. So she's someone who's very well liked, who's won before, who is someone who does sort of recur every so often and get that nomination. And I think here with Pieces of a Woman, an award, a movie that's in the awards race and in the awards conversation, I think people will be seeing it, and I'll sort of think of a default nomination, that they like Ellen Burstyn, they like her role in it, and they'll give her a nomination. Now, there's still some things that are going against it. I think there's a sort of divide between the audience, whether they like the first 30 minutes and not the rest of the movie, or they hate the 30 minutes and like the rest of the movie. The first 30 minutes are very intense as well, so it's going to be hard for a lot of people to just, they may even turn the movie off after the 20 minutes because it's so intense, the first little bit, of which Ellen Burstyn's not even in. So that's going to be difficult for the members of the Academy. In terms of her chances getting in, will they even see the movie if it's too upsetting for them? That'll be interesting to see, but I think of the people that see it, ultimately they should be watching the entire movie, and ultimately I think they'll sort of look at Ellen Burstyn and be like, oh yeah, I like Ellen, I'll write her down, she does a good job here, she's sort of a steady, good actress that they like, that they'll want to nominate here. And similarly, I think this situation will happen with my 4th nominee here, being Glenn Close from HiIlbilly Elegy. HiIlbilly Elegy was a movie that we were sort of unsure about early on in the race. Is this going to be a big deal? Is this going to be dead on arrival? And it sort of was a bit of both. I think that the critics totally tore to shreds and really disliked the movie, and I think that hurts its chances for picture and screenplay and director and things like that. And then Amy Adams as well. But I think the real standout for me personally, and I think for a lot of people, was Glenn Close. How good Glenn Close was. I also think there's a bit of a disconnect between the critics and the Academy members. We see movies that the critics sort of despise and torn down, things like Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, or Green Book, who sort of get destroyed and have all these thoughtful opinion pieces written on them. But that doesn't necessarily mean that their chances have been totally destroyed in terms of getting a nomination. I think that's similar here with Hillbilly Elegy, the sort of poor rural drama that we've seen do well at the Academy before. Things like Precious or Blindside. These are the movies that resonate with Academy members, and I think Glenn Close has so many of the emotional speeches, and that while maybe not all of them work, she has so many emotional speeches within the movie, you're bound to emotionally connect to one of them. She also has this sort of drapey long clothing. She's playing the grandma with the big wig, the sort of no bullshit, say whatever she wants attitude, which also adds to the sort of types of elements that supporting roles often win. That there's a bunch of different elements. First of all, she's in the movie a lot, so she almost feels like a co-lead, which really helps for a supporting category nomination. She's got sort of more of a type of physical transformation in the wig and the way she sort of dresses, but she has a lot also the big monologues and the speeches, and it feels kind of like an Oscar-y type movie, even if it didn't work with the critics. I think it definitely could work for the Academy members, and if the movie is to get anything, I still think it's going to get Glenn Close, and she's been nominated, 7 times now? We almost thought she was going to win for The Wife. So I think if we thought she was almost going to win and got nominated for The Wife, I think that she'll get nominated here for Hillbilly Elegy. And she's the queen of getting nominated. She's not very good at winning, but she's great at getting nominated. So in a sort of a disparate and desolate year, I think that Glenn Close is sort of actually a steady pick here in a movie that they will be seeing, in a movie that is somewhat well liked within the Academy, and a movie that has a sort of standout performance being her, Glenn Close, in Hillbilly Elegy. So watch out for her and pencil in her here for the nominations. We don't know who Hillbilly Elegy could do. It could get faded by other Netflix movies later down in the road, but ultimately I still think people will remember Glenn and sort of just write her in because of how well liked she is. Then with my 5th slot, I'm going to go with Helena Zengel from The News of the World. This is a movie that just came out on Christmas and has been very well received within the Academy in terms of things we're hearing, and also is the kind of movie that would do well within the Academy. It's a movie I've sort of been championing and saying it's going to be doing well for many weeks now. This is an example here where not a lot of people have this pick, but I think it's a dark horse pick that will do well and or could very well do well. It's ultimately speculation. So Helena Zengel is the co-lead to Tom Hanks in the movie. She's a 12-year-old German actress, so she's a kid playing much younger within the film, and is sort of the counterpart to Tom Hanks as he has to escort her back to her uncle and her aunt. And every now and again we see a young actor get nominated here, particularly with the actress category. We're thinking of people like Anna Paquin in The Piano, or Haley Steinfeld in True Grit. Actors that sort of come out, they're precocious, they're interesting, and they're in movies that are well liked. I think True Grit, The Piano, even if we're looking at even younger actresses, someone like Evangeline Wallace for Beasts of the Southern Wild, or Abigail Breslin for Little Miss Sunshine. These are kid actors in movies that are very well liked, and particularly actresses, young girls who do well within movies that are well liked in terms of the Oscar sense. So in a year where we haven't had a best sort of a young child performance get nominated in quite some time, I predict News of the World to be a well-liked movie, get director, picture, screenplay, tech awards. I think it's going to do very well, particularly within the nominations. So then you think, okay, well, supporting actress is sort of a weaker year this year. So we have to look at movies that are well-liked, and then we see a sort of stand-up performance in this movie that will be well-liked. Well, then you sort of connect the dots and you go, well, I think actually Helena Zengel could have gained some steam and some momentum, with people walking out of the movie going like, wow, that kid was so good. She's so great. She can sort of get nominated. Now, there are certain elements where I think the young child who's doing the Oscar campaigning is really great at parties and everyone wants to talk to them, and they have the sort of success that way. And so it's going to be hard to see if people will even know her or want to sort of get to know her in the sort of non-campaign year, where it's hard to see where that will come into effect. But I think the people that will interview her and even speak to her sort of precociousness, and she's a German actress, but she speaks English very well, will impress her, particularly at the difference between her character in the movie and her role here. I think she's, where Tom Hanks is more of the subtle performance, she's a little bit more of the bigger, more of the emotional core of the movie. And I think she's someone that will stand out. I think it's a movie that will do well. And I think that in a sort of a weaker year, she's able to get in here and get that sort of kid actor, young actor kind of energy that we haven't had in a while. But I think we'll get in here for Helena Zengel. Then my couple in the running picks, honorable mentions, what you call them, movies that could very well come in and could be my final predictions before the Oscar nominations are announced. My first one being Maria Bakalova for Borat 2. This is a performance that I'm kind of unsure about and kind of still confused about why it's gaining so much momentum, but the truth is it is, and that's why it is here. I think a lot of people are predicting it to get in. Right now I'm a little bit hesitant. See, the pros for it is that a bunch of film critic circles, it's giving it the support that I think it needs to really get in for these nominations. I mean, it won the New York Film Critics Circle, and I believe Florida Film Critics Circle, not nominated, it won for Best Supporting Actress here, her performance here. Now, I'm a little bit concerned about it because someone like Sacha Baron Cohen didn't even get nominated for Borat, the first one. They're also going to be nominating Sacha Baron Cohen most likely for Best Supporting Actor in Trial of Chicago 7. So if they want to show the sort of Borat love, they'll put it there. But the movie still is well liked. It could be sort of that satire performance that gets in, but I'm still concerned about the performance itself. I mean, it's a comedy performance. We very rarely see truly comedy movies and comedy performances get in here. It's a weird performance. It's a gross, kind of crude performance at times. And it's also, you know, comedy performance. If some people don't like her and didn't think she was funny, she's not going to get any of those votes. But there's still going to be a group of people that do appreciate her and do like her, and the critics groups are giving her a lot of support. So maybe that I'm sort of blind to it, that it is going to get nominated, that there is a lot of support for it. But right now, just because of the nature of the performance, the fact that it's a pure comedy performance, and the fact that it's so rare to see those performances in any category get nominated for an acting award, I'm a little bit hesitant. And until I see some sort of results from SAG and Golden Globes, I'm going to be leaving her off my list. Then my final one here is Yuh-Jung from Minari. She's the sort of older grandmother, the Zhao Shuzhen from The Farewell, kind of a comparison this year. There's going to be a lot of comparisons with Minari and The Farewell, and I think some of them will be apt, and I think this one is in particular because it's a similar role. Now, Zhao Shuzhen was someone I thought was going to get nominated for Best Supporting Actress, but ultimately didn't. Now, this is a fact that a lot of people just don't know her, and that's going to be the problem here, is the same way it was the problem for Zhao Shuzhen. They'll be like, oh yeah, I really like that grandmother from Minari. She's strict and stern, but loving, and has a lot of the emotional moments, but also many sort of the funny moments as well. She's a standout from the movie, but just because she doesn't have that sort of face recognition or that name that's known between everyone, it's going to be really tough for her to ultimately nominate her. So I think if the movie does very well, it gets a PGA nomination. It gets Stephen Yeun from Minari in the lead actor category and gets a support that way. She could slip in here, but I think the fact that she doesn't have that sort of name recognition and that face recognition the same way Zhao Shuzhen doesn't, I think that'll be a similar comparison where I think people will just be afraid even to spell her name and nominate her that way. So unfortunately, I think she'll just be left out, but she could get in from the strength of the film. But that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you comment below. Let me know your picks from Best Supporting Actress. Who did I leave off that you think is going to get in? Candice Bergen, Let Them All Talk, for example. Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear it. Subscribe. Stay tuned to next week where I'm going to be talking about the Best Supporting Actor predictions. That should be a lot of fun. The sort of sister or brother episode in this case. But until then, stay tuned.